Attention, salute, salute, pledge. Okay. Here we go.
Good evening. Welcome to the October 6, 2025 meeting of the Tupelo Planning Committee. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. At this time, please rise for the invocation given by Pam Hadley and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Leslie Martin.
Let me bow our heads. Our Father in heaven, dear Lord, we just come to you, Lord, with so much just appreciation, Lord, and just thankfulness and gratefulness, Lord, for all that you have done for us, all that you're doing for us, Lord, all that you're going to do. We just praise you, Lord. We pray now, Lord, that you will bless this meeting that we are having, Lord. We just pray that everything will be done decently and in order, and that we will be able to just do things like that are pleasing to you, Lord, and just come to a decision on everything that we do. We do thank you, Lord. We love you. We pray this prayer in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. The Tupelo Planning Committee is a volunteer group appointed by the mayor and city council. We do not receive compensation and do it as a community service. The committee spends a lot of time and our own funds and time studying, researching all of the applications and visiting the sites that are on our agenda each month. We ask that you remember that we do not take our positions lightly on any application. Our decisions are based on facts as they are presented and with regard to the regulations set forth in the city code. The planning committee may impose conditions on approvals of a request as it deems necessary to mitigate potential hazards or problems or bring the nonconformity into compliance to the extent necessary to protect the rights and interests of nearby property owners and the general public. At this time, I would like the staff and committee members to introduce themselves.
Tanner Newman, Director of Development Services.
Mark Williams.
Pam Hadley.
Victor Fleitas.
Leslie Mart.
Patty Thompson.
Scott Davis.
Kim Rushing, Community Outreach and Housing Coordinator.
At this time, we're going to review our minutes of the last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting?
I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. Newman, do you have anything to report on the city council's actions from our last meeting?
No actions have been taken by the council. However, tomorrow night, the council will take up the final ordinance on the liquor store restriction as far as the distance requirements, along with the convenience stores with fuel cells.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. We are now ready to start our agenda. There are 4 items on our agenda tonight. As we work through these items, if you are here in order to comment on an application, please, when you are asked, move to the podium, speak into the microphone, and state your name and address before offering comment. This evening, we have 2 old matters to take up and 2 new matters to take up. The first item on our agenda is RZ 25-01. This is a request to rezone 12.8 acres between McCullough Boulevard and Pecan Grove Road from mixed-use commercial corridor to low-density residential. Mr. Newman, it is my understanding that the committee took action on this agenda item last meeting by approving the rezoning request. Since then, it appears that at least one property owner did not receive notice, thus calling into question the procedural correctness of this committee's vote to approve the rezoning request. I would like to request my fellow members of the committee to consider rescinding our vote approving the rezoning request so that we may take this matter back up after ascertaining proper notice was given by the city.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Okay. The matter before us now is whether or not to vote to rescind the approval of the rezoning request from mixed-use commercial corridor to low-density residential. How many vote in favor of rescinding that action from last meeting? It is unanimous, and the rezoning request from last meeting is rescinded due to the procedural irregularity with respect to notice. Having done that, lo and behold, RZ 25-01 is back on our plate. Now, Mr. Newman, have the surrounding property owners been notified?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we can confirm that all property owners subject to the required notification have been properly notified, and the physical notification on site of the rezoning hearing tonight, they've all occurred, so yes.
Were there any responses?
We have had a few, and all of those will be made part of the record, and I believe we have a few here to speak tonight.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that were here last meeting, I just want to make a few remarks. Principally, we had a part one last meeting. We heard from many of you, the applicant as well as others. There were many comments, and all of them, I know I took copious notes of the remarks made by everybody, and I expect that my fellow committee members did as well. Consider this part two of what we did last week as old business. So all I wish to say by that is, if you wish to make remarks today, please try to make remarks about new matters or matters that we really didn't cover last time we were here. I'm not going to cut anybody off or keep anybody from speaking. That's not what I'm here to do. I simply ask as a matter of time saving, and because those of us that were here last week understand lots of things were said, the meeting may move forward a little bit more expeditiously today. It's just a wish and a request, certainly not an order. So at this time, with the same admonition, sir, to the applicant, would you please come to the podium, state your name, address, and present the request to the committee? And if you would, Doctor, could you please visit with the changes that have taken place since we reviewed the plat last meeting and the changes that have been made since then?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And of course, if you need to make any other remarks you deem pertinent, you're more than welcome to do so.
I guess by way of introduction, for if there are some that weren't here last time, I'm Dr. Max Hutchinson. I'm a retired heart surgeon. I've been a resident of Tupelo for over 40 years. One of the things that attracted me to Tupelo in the first place was the fact that there's a mindset, not only in the leadership, but in the community at large, that we are encourage growth and progress in Tupelo, and I hope we never lose that. It's an inclusive mindset that welcomes new neighbors, and again welcomes new growth. It's been referred to as the Tupelo spirit. There were several issues that were talked about last time, as Victor's mentioned. I don't need to reiterate those. As far as the application for rezoning, you may notice that the plat has been amended as this is a revised preliminary plat to include only 10 lots in this subdivision. As I stated before, this property is the best and highest use of this property clearly is residential. It is zoned MUCC, mixed use commercial at present. I think without elaborating on that, there is no good frontage on a major street to support commercial development on this property, and so it's a beautiful piece of property for residential use. It's not conducive to commercial development, and so I can conclude my remarks with that. If you want to wait until you act on that before we discuss the application for the subdivision itself.
I thank you, Doctor. I think we'll do that for the sake of orderliness. Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot. Do any members of the committee have any questions for the applicant with respect to RZ 25-01? We're talking about the rezoning requests. All of you that were here, just to give you a little shorthand, you took a vote approving it last meeting. Because there was an issue of notice, we took that approval back. If any members out there in the general public wish to comment on the rezoning issue, please come forward and we'll be glad to hear you.
Do they have a sign-in sheet up there?
There it should be. Unless it was.
Is it in the folder maybe?
Dr. Hutchinson, did you happen to accidentally pick up that sign-in sheet?
And ma'am, if you'll just give me a second to hand these out, and you're welcome to start. Oh, I gave you two. Well, there you go. All right. Thank you for your patience, ma'am.
My name is Jackie Newell. I live at 1792 Pecan Grove Drive, and I've been there for 26 years. The reason that I want to state this right now in this program is because it is currently zoned commercial at this moment. So I want to address this at this
Of course,
time.
ma'am.
There were numerous statements at the meeting on September 8th about how you wanted to treat everyone the same. The current president of our HOA, as well as a sitting member of the city council, has incurred the intense wrath of the city of Tupelo for cutting trees on commercial property. As it stands today, the property is still zoned commercial. The developer stated that he only cut 6 to 8 trees. I would like to submit the Google Maps photo of the land before he began work in August to show how heavily wooded it was. You can see that the blue dot is my house. And so across the street there, between Clayton and McCullough, the heavily wooded area is the land, the property that we're referring to. The second photo is of cleared land afterwards. An employee of the city was quoted to say you could land a plane back there, and I would tend to agree. Since you stated last month that you wanted to treat everyone the same, I'm certain that you will hold the developer accountable. We understand that there are options to that accountability. One of the options is to replant trees, and there will be many, many to replant. If he chooses the option of replanting, we would like to ask the city to require him to replant in what you called the thin strip, and he stated at the last meeting would be green space for his new development. And I haven't seen the new plat, but I'm assuming that is still green space. We would like our buffer back. We would also like for him to plant trees along the border of our neighborhood to any of the backyards that will lose their privacy due to this new development. I think there are possibly 3. And that's all. Any questions?
Any questions from any members of the committee? Thank you, ma'am. This closes the public portion of this application for review. We are now open for committee discussion. Department of Developmental Services, I believe, gave their review on this matter last week. For the benefit of everyone present, can I have a brief statement from city staff regarding its position on the rezoning request?
Sure, Mr. Faulkner, would you mind to give a quick, brief overview of that?
Rezoning action depends on certain criteria that include whether the area has changed and how the area is suitable for the zoning that it has as opposed to the zoning that's proposed. And whether the action contributes to a positive outcome in terms of the city's needs for zoning of one type or another. In this case, the action would transfer some land from the commercial zoning to the residential zoning. Having just been engaged in a review of our land use trends over the past 12 years, we've actually been using residential land up at a higher rate than commercial land. So therefore, I feel like this action would contribute to a positive balance for the city in that respect. The other significant point is the suitability of the land for commercial use. With the standards that MDOT has now, there's very little to no likelihood that this property could be accessed from McCullough Boulevard, which pretty much kills its potential as commercial property. Therefore, since the other adjoining property is residential, that joining that district would be appropriate.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr.
I do have a
Faulkner?
question. So if it's, let's say it stays as it is, mixed-use commercial, could this road be built as drawn and these be commercial properties with access through the neighborhood?
Yes, that would not be an ideal outcome.
I understand, but I'm trying to look at, we talked last time about the best use of the land. And the best use, if the only access is off of Pecan Grove for commercial, that is not the best use.
Correct. Right. The viability of it as commercial property from an investment point of view would be weak at best.
As well as really affecting the neighborhood by driving through the neighborhood to get to the commercial property, because my understanding is he can build the road. It's just whether is the road going to be serving commercial uses or residential. Am I correct in understanding that?
That's correct.
Yes.
Any other members of the committee have any questions for Mr. Faulkner? All right. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Is there any further discussion or questions regarding RZ 25-01?
I should have asked Dr. Hutchinson this when he was up there.
Well, let's ask this. Mr. Hutchinson, would you mind coming back? I apologize, sir. If you would not mind coming back up to the podium, if the other members are okay
Thank
with
you.
this, and you could ask your question, Ms. Mark.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Would you confirm, just for the record, that you only own this piece of property? The property between the west side is not yours?
That's correct. In fact, I had, in discussing the development of the subdivision itself, I'd planned to clarify that. But I do not own the property that fronts Mount Vernon Road.
Thank you.
On the west side of the large tributary drainage ditch, King Creek tributary, I think it's called. The only frontage I own for the development of this property is the 1.7 acres that fronts on Pecan Grove Drive.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments by anyone on the committee?
I'm just curious, because we're talking about the west side here.
Yes.
If somebody bought that piece of property and wanted to put in a liquor store, or convenience store or something, they could do that, and then that would make the property behind it still viable for commercial use. You'd have a road going to it.
Is that a question for Pat?
For the-
No, it's for us to
for us
consider. I
to
mean,
consider.
the issue is if that's MUCC and this remains MUCC, we may have a problem down the road, I think, as you were trying to intimate, Mr. Davis, by asking your questions.
Yeah,
That is,
because
it is riskier to the general public that it remain MUCC with any number of possible uses than,
Can anybody else speak right now?
well, we're speaking on the, we kind of closed the public portion, ma'am. But we're gonna come back and visit it. Is your question pertaining to zoning?
I thought those lots where the road is right now weren't MUCC.
No, that I can't speak to. I guess,
That's the situation.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way this was plotted, phase one and phase two, there's one lot that was not plotted as residential. It's the one lot he owns, it's the one lot he's talking about using as a cut through. That was not platted as residential from my understanding from the city.
It was not platted in either phase one or phase two of Pecan Grove.
right.
So currently, it's a vacant piece of property that is not subject to either plat.
But it's not MUCC either.
That particular lot is not zoned MUCC, but the other property
That's what
behind it
seems
is.
to me needs to be clarified.
She doesn't need to be speaking from down there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your remarks, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So also, the property that Dr. Hutchinson does not own, that is between this and Mount Vernon, is still commercial property, and it's not up for rezoning. So in the future, that could be commercial accessible from Mount Vernon Road, correct? That's everybody's understanding.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. We're
And
just,
it could tie into this parcel,
Yes.
assuming a sale in future.
yeah,
I can't predict the future,
yeah, okay. I just needed that clarification,
but it's within the realm of possible.
possible.
Right. Any further discussion or comments regarding this application? All right. Is the committee ready to make a motion on this application for rezoning?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the rezoning request with the stipulation that the applicant use a tree survey from Cook Hagen and replace the amount of trees to restore as much as possible back to the state forest
For the green
for
space.
the green space coming in.
A question to, not to blunt your motion in any way, just a question for clarification, if I may. Is the green space survey requirement something that we should be bringing up in the next section, or make it a condition of the rezoning? And I'll adhere to whatever you feel, since it's your motion.
Well, I think it would be applicable here in the rezone.
Okay, fair enough.
Before the zoning is changed, yeah.
Before we make that motion, does that green space lot need to be included in this to be rezoned as residential?
No, it is already zoned residential.
It already is.
Along Pecan
Yeah,
Grove.
I don't like to play my cards before the game is played, or show my cards before the bets are all done. But it was something I planned on bringing up during the next phase, with respect to green space. But your point is absolutely well taken. We have a motion on the floor conditioning the approval of the rezoning to a tree survey by
Yep.
Cook Coggins or some other engineering firm.
And we do have that. So let me make sure that I'm clear. So the motion is that the trees that were in the existing Cook Coggin tree survey must be replaced that were within the current commercial zone on part of the green space dedicated in the upcoming preliminary plat.
Correct.
Fair enough. We have a motion.
I'll say.
I'll second.
Or
All right,
it doesn't
second
matter.
by Mr. Davis. All in favor with the stipulation regarding the tree survey and replacement? All in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. Faulkner, could you please advise the applicant and interested parties about their options and what the next steps are?
I'll take that, Mr. Chairman. This approval tonight is a recommendation to the city council, and we intend to hold a public hearing before the city council for this rezoning request at the next meeting in October, which would be October 21st, here in the city council chambers at 6 p.m.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Newman. Moving on to the next item on our agenda. MAJ sub 25-01, parcel 0760-24-024-2. Request to subdivide 12.8 acres located off McCullough Boulevard and south of Pecan Grove to 10 residential lots. Mr. Newman, have the surrounding property owners been notified, and were there any responses?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this, I guess as you put it earlier, is a further, round two of this consideration. Since the last meeting, the request has shrunk from 11 additional lots to 10. A few points to make. We do have a letter here from the fire marshal clarifying the fire department's position, and I believe we do have a few members of the public here to share some comments tonight.
Okay, thank you, sir. Doctor, if you don't mind, would you please come to the podium, state your name, address, and present your request to the committee again? Thank you, sir. And if you would, with the emphasis primarily on some of the changes that have taken place since the last meeting, sir. I think those are very important.
Again, I'm Dr. Max Hutchinson. I live at 1632 Pecan Grove Drive. And as we have said, I've amended the plat to include 10 lots rather than 11 as originally proposed. I'm glad at least we had an opportunity to clarify the issue of access to this subdivision. At one time, I thought it might be possible to access this property from Mount Vernon Road. However, I do not own that property on that side, and after meeting with the event center owner and the current owner of that property, there is no plans for any development in the foreseeable future, so I have no way of accessing Mount Vernon Road from this property that we've discussed rezoning. My only access is through the 1.7 acres that front on Pecan Grove Drive. It's my understanding that since the development of our subdivision, this 1.7 acres was in fact zoned residential, not commercial. The rezoning, from what I understand, applies to the 13.8 acres that lie south of the property line. And so I would like to make a point that the only trees that have been removed is, in terms of mature trees that would qualify for a tree count or a tree survey have been done in the roadway itself. There is no way to access this property. There was no way to access this property without taking some trees out. The road work that's been done so far has given me access to a drainage ditch that that I've worked on for over a year in order to try to control some erosion and drainage problems in the 1.7 acres. I was able to access that with some trucks in the past week, and anticipating the coming winter weather, so that I was able to to deliver some riprap in the vicinity of that ditch. So I realize that a fair amount of road work has been done. It has provided me access with which to to address the erosion and drainage problem on the 1.7 acres. So I'd like to make that point. It has also given us access to remove some large trees that were in the drainage ditch itself. And I think we discussed that last time as well. So as a question about the tree survey, I assume we'll talk about that after the vote on the subdivision development itself. But my understanding is that we have submitted the survey that Mr. Waterer had done, that was approved by this committee several years ago. Obviously, there's a cost involved in a more detailed tree survey. So I would just appeal to the committee to consider that. And I would be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Do any members of the committee have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Sure.
On the plat that I'm looking at now, there's a, green space at the, the entrance, and then the circular part of the middle of there. Once this, and there's green spaces that are on the border of McCullough, and there needs to be a green space towards the bottom half, lot 5 and 4, but I don't see that marked on the plat. Is that just an oversight on that? Not being
I
marked?
believe, yes.
No, it's
Good question.
it could become a green space. The lot owner adjacent to that property had expressed some interest in that, and whether we do a minor subdivision and actually keep that out of the plat, that's a possibility. But for the preliminary plat, it should have been marked green space. It's at this time.
Okay, and I didn't see in here, maybe I'm mistaken, where are the cluster mailbox?
It's not on this plat. We noticed that. Cook Coggin is aware of that. That'll be addressed.
And I guess my last question, once this is developed, whose responsibility is it to maintain the green space?
I assume it'd be the homeowners association. That's my understanding.
And would this be a separate homeowners, or would it be the Pecan Grove homeowners?
Well, that's a good question. My hope is that it'll be a part of Pecan Grove subdivision. The entire neighborhood of 31 lots would make a wonderful homeowners association. Now, obviously, a number of the neighbors are not happy about this, so I don't know exactly how that's going to work. I'm not trying to be evasive, but it's possible this could be a separate homeowners association. I don't know.
Thank you.
Doctor, I may have, I'm sorry. Any of you want to go, please? I'm sorry.
I heard you say something about the space not labeled next to lots 4 and 5 about a minor subdivision?
There's in the construction of this plat, that space was not necessary as a part of those 2 lots. So it was left out of the plat. There's a possibility that the homeowner adjacent to that might be interested in purchasing that property, is the reason we had thought about that.
You're talking about the marks?
Yes. Now, if they aren't interested, if they decide they don't want that property, then we would probably make that a green space. Either way, it'll be retained as a wooded area.
Before I ask any questions, does anybody else have any questions? Thank you. I think most of my questions have already been asked, but I do want to make sure that I like precision in speech. The circular drive, oval drive for lack of a better, to be more
Yes.
precise, it is my understanding, that interior portion will be green space as part of
Yes.
this project. It's my further understanding that the lot on the north end, what's been referred to as the access lot, will be green space as part of this project. Is that correct?
Yes, I think,
Okay, and listed that way as well.
yes,
are
the
you-
1.7 acre strip that
Ye-
borders
yes.
Pecan Grove Drive will be retained as green space, yes.
Now, I want to go back to ask about the easternmost lot backing lots 4 and 5. As the applicant, you are not prepared to commit today to commit that to green space. And the reason is because you have the possibility of a prospective sale to someone outside of, or a neighboring adjoining property owner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So as we sit here today, that's not something you're prepared to commit to green space.
That's correct.
All right, fair enough. That answers that.
So- When you're done.
Thank you, dear. My understanding is that there will be no construction vehicles if this project is approved on Pecan Grove Road. Is that correct?
For major road construction, I have I'm glad you mentioned that. I have a construction easement that comes directly off of
You answered my next question.
Mount
Go
Vernon
ahead.
Road, which is a 2-year easement. And I have talked to the owner of the property, and there's a possibility he would extend that beyond 2 years if at the end of 2 years the road construction, infrastructure construction is not completed. But I anticipate having this road. It's not a long road. I think we should easily be able to construct the road, curb and gutter, storm drain, water, sewer, and so forth within a 2-year period of time.
Is it my understanding, and my next question was going to be, and I may go back to my first question, and tie it all in with a ribbon. The adjoining property owner on the west side has given you a 2-year easement or license to access your property for purposes of doing the construction work necessary.
That's correct.
Does that include the road, the access road building? The access road itself, you're going to use a road going through that westernmost lot for all construction-related activities.
That's correct.
Is that the road that's going to be used to allow you to build that access road? Or are you saying that construction vehicles will be coming through at the access road point and working their way down? Are you working up or are you working down off Pecan Grove?
I'm not sure I understand. The access for construction that is the temporary construction easement, it's actually a written contractual easement, will come directly off of Mount Vernon Road and cross the ditch
Correct.
by a temporary bridge that we've constructed. All road construction, as we plan, I wouldn't say that once we get that within a few feet of Pecan Grove Drive, there'll have to be some curb will have to be taken out, and so there'll have to be some construction right there. But the majority of it, the great majority of it, will be able to access with our construction easement. I'm hopeful that essentially no large equipment would have to come down our street.
And that, you got to exactly what I was asking. The work to build the infrastructure and the road will be done off of the access road that you have the easement,
That's correct.
not off of Pecan Grove.
That's correct.
Means you're not starting at the top, you're starting towards the bottom.
Right, right. It crosses very near where the road curves to go to the circle. It accesses the road very close to that point.
I have just one other question, sir, and thank you for your patience with me.
Sure.
Have you been made aware, notified, or aware of whether or not any cultural review has been done by the Chickasaw Nation?
I have not. I presume that I know that Mr. Waterer's plan went through the approval process, and that was not an issue, but I personally have not.
And I'm not sure you do or don't. I just want to, the question I'm asking is if in fact some form of cultural review is necessary as part of this development,
Yeah.
because of its proximity to certain areas of tribal interest. Are you amenable, as a condition of approving this project, to making sure that those reviews are done?
If that's necessary, yes.
And I want to note, just for the record, that typically would come at the next phase when the developer applies for a construction permit for the streets and infrastructure utilities.
Understood. I just thought I would ask on the front end. All right, that's all I've got, ma'am. Thank you.
So I have I'm concerned about this piece of land bordering lots 4 and 5. I don't like the idea of us having a piece of land that is not designated as something that is now going to be landlocked. So are you open to this being designated as green space? Now, if you choose to sell it, that's your prerogative, but it needs to be designated on the plat as green space.
Yeah, on the permanent plat, it'll be designated as
But
such.
can you do
yes.
that? Because otherwise you could just sell the green spaces.
I think you would probably review that through a restricted covenants process. We could require in the legal description of that lot, there to be language that, it could be sold, but it would always be subject to specific requirements such as no development,
No
green
development.
space. You could lay that out.
Exactly. So that the green space is and will always be green space.
Yes,
Okay, so you're good with that, which then in turn means that the buffers between, I'm sorry, my vision is not quite what it used to be.
So really, lot,
Cockrell's land,
lot 3 would be the only one that would.
If it stays green
Possibly.
space.
yeah, that would be the only one that's going to affect that lot, so you would need to,
It would be that northern spur of it covers all of lot 4 and covers lot 5, leaving just a portion of lot 3. About quarter of it.
yeah, so he just needs to make sure that stays kind of green back there. All right, so.
yeah, it's as you can see from the topo, it drops off pretty low. It's all wooded, and we intend to keep it that way. I think that even if the Marks were to purchase that, they'd be more than willing to agree to leaving it wooded. So
All right,
I don't think that'd be an issue. This is total green space, by the way, is quite a bit more than usual, I would say, for a subdivision. And our interest is to preserve as many trees as possible. And as a matter of fact, all the work I've done on this erosion control through the 1.7 acres is intended to preserve as many trees as possible. So,
Well, you can always sell that land with lots 4 and 5, just pull it all the way back to the property line, and then it just becomes part of their lots.
it's possible, but it would, you know,
I just don't wanna see a piece of landlocked
yes.
land.
Yeah, no, I don't either. We intend to either incorporate it or retain it as green space.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is, if it's going to be included in this plat, it needs to be identified as something, either a lot or as
Agreed.
green space.
Right.
Will that designation prohibit future alienation of the lot as he proposes a potential sale? It does not, as long as it's kept with that restriction on it.
Correct.
Fair enough. I think I know what I need to know. Any questions, any more questions from any members of the committee? Sir, thank you for your time. You may have a seat, sir. We will now open the public portion of the hearing for this application. Please try to hold your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Is there anyone here to speak for or against the application? Please state your name and address when you come to the podium. And if y'all just remember my request from earlier, come on up. Thank you, ma'am.
Do they need to sign in a second time?
I don't think it'd be necessary. You've signed in already, ma'am, and your name's there of record, and we've got the videos, so.
Okay. All right. I'm Jackie Newell, 1792 Pecan Grove Drive. And I'm speaking on behalf of my neighbors tonight, and for the record, we are still adamantly opposed to the development coming off our neighborhood. That being said, we've received the message that all the issues will probably be approved tonight. We've been made aware that the development department has been working with the developer, and that is good if you are the developer. However, the process tramples on the majority here, and we are citizens of Tupelo and taxpayers as well. As far as we know, a permit has not been issued yet since the land was not rezoned before tonight, and work began in August. We are now in October. All the work done was done without a permit. There's a lot that could be said about the fire marshal, engineer's report, access to Mount Vernon Road, and other permitting issues, but for the reason that we will still be neighbors, we will leave those things unsaid. A couple of just comments about what was previously said. The one point, he talked about the trees, and he needed them to build a road or whatever. That 1.7 acres, as you can see on your map, is a long way from the commercial stuff in the back that I gave you the picture of. That's not nearby. So work on the drainage, irrigation, the erosion, that has nothing to do with that commercial property back there. And I just want to state that. Also, there have been a lot of comments tonight about the water plan as far as the tree survey and things coming off. There was a different plan. It's not the same plan. We've seen his plan and we've seen this plan. So I think you just have to have your own engineer's report, your own tree survey or whatever. They're not the same. And we were told that he could not come off Mount Vernon, but the water plan, it was more houses and they were coming off Mount Vernon. The land, what I've heard tonight about the lot behind 4 and 5 that you're talking about being landlocked, that concerns me. He said something like a mini subdivision or something like that. Well, we're already maxed out on the fire code on homes. So I ask you to please nail that down tonight, that that will not be another home because we'll have the maximum. Lastly, in the same vein of treating everyone the same, we would like to ask you if John Doe from Cincinnati, Ohio, came to Tupelo and wanted to purchase land that had an existing exit onto a main road, but he only purchased half of it, then came to you wanting to make his exit through our established neighborhood of over 30 years. What would you say, understanding that the other part is still for sale? He only purchased half of it, and now he's here saying, I can't do it any other way. Well, yes, he can. John Doe's reason for coming through our neighborhood was that he didn't want to spend the money to purchase the rest of it, and that's a developer's problem. It's now become our problem why we're here tonight. We would like for you to think about that because we certainly have been thinking about it. All we are asking for is fair treatment for everyone. And so far, what we've seen just has not been a good look for the Tupelo, the permitting and the way a lot of this has happened. We would just like to see it the same for everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Does any members of the committee have any questions for Ms. New? Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else like to come up? Dr. Hill, come on up. Good to see you again.
All right, I'm Ryan Russell.
Oh, why did I say Hill?
What?
My mind's elsewhere. Sorry, Dr. Russell. I should
Ryan
know
Russell.
better. Haven't been to your office in too long.
At 1912 Pecan Grove. And I'm just going to follow up with some of the stuff. What Jackie said seemed to cover most of all the points that we needed to cover tonight. I'm just asking also, as far as I think a lot of special treatment has been offered, a lot of stuff has been done with mainly buying a smaller lot, smaller area, not coming all the way out. And two, have we actually talked to MDOT? I know that rules have gone to, but has anybody contacted MDOT to see if they would let?
It wasn't MDOT, it was the Trace. Well, it could have been MDOT, but we did have a letter from the Trace that
Okay.
their, I don't know if it's right away, but their control goes through this area right here.
Yeah.
So it's the Trace would not allow the exit so close to their
Okay.
entrance.
I know we talked about the trace last. It said
Yeah.
MDOT earlier.
It
I
may
didn't
be
know if
MDOT too. They've gotten
Yeah.
more restrictive on
Yeah.
where they allow ingress and egress from. But I do know we had that letter from the
Right.
superintendent of
Yeah.
the Trace.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, Doctor. I thought it was both.
It
Okay.
is. It is both. To be
Okay.
It was my understanding and it was brought to my attention that both of them have those prohibitions on it.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir. I'm
Okay.
sorry to
No,
interrupt
no,
you.
no. I just had that question too. The other thing is, like we said, the road, as narrow as that road is, if this is approved, please get some kind of thing in writing for us if we can, that all the construction, that it's extend 3 or 4 years. Because if we're constructing 10 houses back there after the road, you know, I've got 2 young kids that play in the yard. I don't want 1,500 construction trucks going through there flying that don't live in the neighborhood and don't care about our neighbors or our kids out in the street or whatever. And this is a cul-de-sac neighborhood. Again, this is why we moved over here with young kids, to get off our racetrack that we lived on in Spring Lake. You know, but, you know, maintaining that road, I don't want to see these heavy concrete trucks, you know, any of these builders now, they're a solid year, most of them, before you can get on their list that are gonna build these custom homes that are gonna be in this neighborhood. You know, you gotta wait at least a year, so we're looking at 10 houses, even if all the lots sold next week, you know, we'd be looking at several years before they're finished. You know, that road will be, you know, if the temporary road's done in 2 years, our new freshly paved road that Tupelo paid for, you know, will be destroyed by, you know, all those trucks if they continue, if we could, if it is approved, which I hope it's not, but extend that out 3 or 4 years, or have some kind of condition in there, if possible, to put that in there. And again, too, you know, working without the permits and the John Doe thing, that's, you know, if we're setting a precedent for, you know, working in permits, would we get the same thing if we were from out of town doing the same thing? And that just, that, and then, like I said, and just think about the safety too. And again, most of us are opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just make one comment for the record. The city of Tupelo has one unified development code, and it does apply to any individual developing within the city limits. And we have a very clear, I guess, guideline of requirements that are required, and the planning committee and the city council must review each of those items before they can vote to approve or deny. And so the short answer is certainly yes. They would be held to the same requirements.
Hey guys, my name is Bo Hill. I live at 1837 Pecan Grove. I just have a question for y'all. You know, we've talked multiple times about the erosion, the drainage ditch, and how he's been putting stuff in it. And now we've been talking about these surveys that are going to be reused. So does water erode things? Does land change? And so my question to y'all is, what is the precedent, and how long are past, you know, surveys and things like that good for?
I would like to also comment on that. The only reference that's relevant here to the water survey was that the city does have a record of the trees that were there prior to any trees being cut. And so I'm saying that's a positive thing, that we do have a record of that we can look back on as far as what it will be required to be replaced.
Okay, well, the developer referenced several times that he was using old surveys and things of that nature from a previous development.
Everything that we are reviewing is a current survey from Cook Coggin Engineer, to be clear about the city's position.
Okay, and then my last point is on this Choctaw Nation thing that I guess Mr. Blaze brought up. You know, I don't know when those things normally get done, but in this case, the dirt's already been moved. What's the precedent there?
Sure. Again, that review is typically conducted once the development, the construction application for the actual street and utility, once that's submitted, that's when they conduct their review.
Okay,
so we will deal with that with the Chickasaw Nation.
So in theory, if we were going through proper channels here, the permitting would have been approved before or after, you know, so the permits get approved, then the Choctaw people come, and then the dirt work happens, correct?
No, once the permit application is received,
Okay.
the city would contact them to conduct their review.
Have we received a permit application?
We have not. That would not occur until the preliminary plat was approved.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Does anybody have any, I'm sorry, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hill? Okay.
My name is Scott Eves. I live at 1720 Pecan Grove. We've rehashed this. I know y'all got more things to do. I want to thank each of you, first of all, for being appointed. I know some of you, spend a lot of time and effort doing what you do. And then there's a lot of feelings in this room that are not being shown and on our street. There are court cases, there are attorneys, there are a lot of different things that happen in front of our city council, in front of meetings, that can be turned different ways and sideways, 100 different ways. Whether it's right or wrong, that doesn't seem to matter anymore. You're following a code or whatever it may be. You're seeing tonight the continuous questions in circles What's gonna happen? What are you gonna do about this? What are you gonna, that's what we've been dealing with for 4 years. There's a precedence that has already been set by this developer. And I just ask you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Eves? And sir, did you get a chance to sign in?
I did.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tracy May. I'm a consultant for Scott Eves and some of the Homeowners Association. My background, I'm a golf course architect, designed Big Oaks Golf Course. I've worked for Jack Nicklaus Design and developments around the world. I've created numerous developments, over 3,000 acre developments I was ahead of. There's certain guidelines that a developer needs to follow. From what I've seen in the process that the city has to follow and the developer has to follow, it all has to be uniform. What I have noticed, just sort of coming in behind, I wasn't here at the last meeting. I know the plat has to be approved, and a lot of good questions are brought up about the green spaces being landlocked and things like that. That is very important, not to be landlocked. My question would be to you, there's a lot of, from an environmental standpoint, erosion control, pollution control, water quality issues. I drove by today and saw land disturbed, not one stick of silt fence up that I could see observed from the road that shows on the plat where it needs to be done before one spoonful of dirt is moved, which I live in Lee County. I live in South Tupelo. I used to live in the city limits, but I've watched Tupelo grow over the years, and I'm very proud of my community. But we cannot allow, not just this development, but other developments, to create something without erosion control protection and following what's been done. There needs to be silt fence, there's supposed to be gravel put on the edge of the road to keep the mud from tracking up into the development. There's no gravel, there's no nothing. And for somebody stating that they need to access to their property, I totally agree with that. Where if he has 1.7 acres, he needs to access to it. But also, there's a land disturbance issue. If you have 5 cubic feet per second of water moving through a stream, that's a U.S. jurisdictional waterway of the United States. I know I've had to go through section 404 permits, 106, and different areas of where you had to go through. It has not been done. Cook Coggins, if they visited the site, from a professional engineer's liability, if they see erosion control of anything that's been done or anything like that, it's up to them to report it. I don't know if any reports have been done, but it's mandatory through a PE code. So I challenge any engineers that may be here, you stand up and do your job, because it's very important, us as a community, to be protected. That's why we have laws and regulations to keep somebody from breaking into your house, whatever. It's the same thing. I'm not going to break into somebody's house because there's a law against it. Same thing for development. So that's the issue for erosion control and those issues. On the streams, there's a riparian corridor. That's to protect any erosion going in there so the soils can settle before it gets into the soil. And I know that will be brought up in the next phase after this has been approved. But as a good developer, you bring that up in the very beginning to inform homeowners know that you're here to protect the land and not let it heal itself. And then you're going to go back and plant trees that's already been destroyed, taken out. Well, you're going to plant them back in the same street. Where are they going to be planted? And if you take down one size tree, Well, guess what? You got a mitigation process. You gotta bring back a certain number of trees. I'm not sure what your guideline shows, but you gotta bring back certain type tree, certain number of trees. Where are all those trees gonna be planted? Well, guess what? You're fixing to build a house. You're fixing to tear down more trees. You're gonna put in easements for your utilities, water, sewer, electricity. You're taking down more trees. How much of an easement offset is it for the utilities? Where are the utilities being run? In the back of the property, the front of the property? Are they coming off Mount Vernon down the construction road? Well, that's gonna take down more trees. I can't maneuver gas lines and water lines in a curvy pattern. He wouldn't be able to afford it. So they're gonna go in a straight line. Well, there goes a big open area. Well, you can't plant trees on top of a utility easement in some of those areas. They're gonna be left wide open because the utilities need to get back in there. And is it gonna be underground utilities, above ground, or what? So those issues need to be addressed, you know, to make this our community. I mean, Pecan Grove, to me, is one of the nicest developments in Tupelo. And I know y'all are proud of it, that and Forest Park. I mean, when we moved here, we looked there. It's a very nice community. And so I hate to see a cul-de-sac community get inundated with even more cars. But, you know, in the construction access, you know, I built developments. You can build any kind of construction access you want. There's stopping point A, Mount Vernon Road. I can build curbs. I got to bring anything in off that road. I don't have to come down Pecan Grove. I can build everything I need. If there's a river right there, I can stop up to that river and build what I need to build. So it can be built. It's just going to be a little bit more costly, but it can be done to cut down all that traffic flow into that area. But you got to be careful getting ahead of ourselves, you know, and approving something that's hadn't been thought about. I mean, it's like, where are those trees being planted? You know, I'm sitting back there, wish I could speak up earlier so we could address it. You know, where are those trees being planted? Is it going to a mitigation bank? The mitigation bank is whenever you don't have nowhere else to plant trees. Like if you have a wetland, I disturb a wetland, I have to go buy wetlands. There's people that have wetland banks where you can buy them and they preserve them forever. Where are those areas being planted? You know, from the green space, you know, the impervious surface that comes off the water, from the streets, the roads, the reefs, the roofs, everything that's there. He put in a pipe that was there, but did that taken, you know, as an engineer, you have to do construction documents to know how many acre feet of water before you put a pipe in the ground, to know what size pipe, bulkhead, I mean head walls, whatever you have to put in there to handle the water from a 100-year floodplain so it does not flood somebody downstream. And so what you need to make sure of is that that water is being, what is it?
30 seconds.
Oh, okay, I didn't know ahead of time. All right, so.
We generally have a 5-minute limit, so,
Okay.
so how about if you take another minute and
No, that's fine.
round up your remarks? Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
So what I'm saying is right now, from a city standpoint, I really feel like you need to slow down and review and really look at this instead of approving something too quick, because right now the way it's being approached, there's a major impact to your environment from what I'm seeing from an outside source, and it needs to be, take pride in your city and just look at it and do what's officially right in your own heart. Because where are those trees going to be planted? Where's everything going to be, you know, from your utility easements and everything that's coming in? You're going to be destroying a lot more than what's out there at this moment.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to make some remarks during the public portion of the meeting? All right, this closes the public portion of this application review. We are now open for committee discussion. Mr. Newman, does the Department of Development Services have a perspective on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I go back to some comments earlier. Tonight, the committee is reviewing simply whether or not these proposed lots meet the requirements of the City of Tupelo's Unified Development Code in a residential subdivision zoned LDR. These 10 lots proposed do meet the requirements outlined in the development code. The preliminary plat does meet the green space requirements. I know there are a few details to pan out as far as one thing. You've got, it appears, 6 green space lots. I would suggest that we identify each of those as green space number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6 on the plat before it's presented to council. All of the details that were just discussed, though, are part of the process. So once planning committee makes a recommendation to the city council will review that recommendation. Any developer, any applicant cannot submit for a construction application without a preliminary plat being approved. Once a preliminary plat's approved and the construction application is submitted to Development Services, that plan, and it is a very detailed plan that is required by an engineer firm, will outline all of the details of erosion control, the street, the infrastructure, all the utilities, drainage. All of that will be reviewed as any other development would by Development Services, by Tupelo Water and Light, Public Works, the fire department, all relevant departments. And no construction will be permitted until all of those departments have an opportunity to review those engineered plans and to either approve or request additional information or changes. So tonight, the committee is simply reviewing the 10 lots and whether or not those lots meet the requirements of a low-density residential zone new subdivision development.
And also, he has a right to build the street and to have a, well, before we rezoned, commercial or residential subdivision. Now it's gonna be residential. But he has a right to build that street, no matter what. It's really whether this conforms to the city's development code.
Correct.
And what you're saying is that every box has been checked, that it conforms.
Correct.
And it doesn't really matter how we feel. He has done what's needed as far as a preliminary plat goes.
Right. That is correct. And so all the other concerns that have been raised that are very legitimate, they are valid. I just want the public to know and rest assured that those concerns will be addressed through the routine process, and that would be the next step in the process, is reviewing that engineered set of construction plans for the streets, for the drainage, for the erosion control, when a construction application is submitted along with those plans.
So Tanner, with all that said, and that's good commentary, it's been great discussion, but on the 6 green spaces, should this committee make it conditional that that green space, the owners, the maintenance and upkeep is required before it can be approved by the city council? Or is that something that would fall into what you just described, once it's finally platted, all that would be taken care of then?
My suggestion would be that we have a clear outline for each of those 6 green space lots and who will maintain them, who will own them. Will it be the developer? Will it be a homeowner association, whether it's the existing or a new one, or will they be sold privately? We just need some type of outline as to who will maintain those green spaces. And there is no clear requirement as to who has to maintain those, but there is a requirement that we be provided a plan as to who will maintain those.
Well, it seems to be the developer should maintain them until the neighborhood has enough residents to form a homeowners association. That seems to be, otherwise they'll be, everybody's like, it's not mine, it's not mine. And so the developer should take the responsibility of those 6 green spaces to maintain them. And now what triggers the homeowners association to take it over, whether it's the sale of all lots or 2/3 of the lots, I don't know what that should be, but I think it's developer's responsibility to maintain those green spaces.
Agreed.
I take it then the city's position is approval of the preliminary plat.
Our
development
position is that it meets the requirements within the development code for a preliminary plat, yes. If the green space matters are addressed and the clear identification of the postal service cluster box. That would need to be added or identified on the preliminary plat before we will take it to city council for their final review.
What about the construction access road and confirmation of the easement?
I think that's certainly a contingency that the planning committee has the authority to.
I think it needs to be identified on the plan.
plan.
Ultimately, I think before a final approval by your department or anybody else, I don't necessarily, I was looking for it.
It's not on, it's
not on.
further,
Is it not
it's
that little
off the
piece?
paper. Well, it goes beyond off the
No,
paper.
no, understood, it goes all the way to Mount Vernon, but would
I
you,
agree, it needs to be identified
would
on the
you
plat.
help me here, Leslie? I'm sorry.
I have no idea where he's going
Is
to do
this not
that.
it right here?
It's not clearly identified on where it's going to be. This is not it.
That's not
He
it.
just said it
No,
was in the
this is
curve
showing
of the
that's
road.
the line
That's what I
between-
thought, right here,
Yeah.
Where?
in the curve of the road. That little tiny spot right there is what I thought.
No, that's just showing the property line between lot 10 and the green space.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's that little? Okay.
The little green thing's a tree.
I
Yeah.
guess what we're gonna have to say is that's something that's going to have to
It
be
needs to be
provided to
identified.
Agreed.
the city,
Yep.
ultimately.
Yeah. And legally, so whatever right-of-ways, the agreement, it needs to be something, some verbiage needs to be in place somewhere that if that commercial land is sold, that right-of-way needs to be maintained for the duration that's set forth, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And we do have our Tupelo Public Works Director here tonight, Mr. Kelly. I would, if the committee is agreeable, like to have him come up and offer a little bit more information about those next steps, the things that would be addressed in, as far as all the concerns that were raised tonight. And also, I believe he can offer some comments on the construction access, the final lift of asphalt on the new roads, and any construction traffic that we would require the developer provide.
Absolutely. It's time for the city to give its position, so by all means.
Thank you. As far as
For
subdivision,
the benefit of everybody here, sir, please state your name.
absolutely. Kelly Knight, Director of Public Works for the city. As far as the infrastructure such as the drive and or road going in, as far as the access of when the city would assume responsibility and take over that section of roadway into our maintenance system, that would only come at a point in which 80% of the development was completed. And at that time, it would have to be, and in that process, the road would have to be inspected as a construction project as it's being built. It would have to be built to our city standards. And only at the time in which it reaches those standards and it reaches the 80% of the developed land threshold, then it can be considered to be taken over as a city street and be maintained by the city. That time it would come before us and our city engineer, Mr. Dennis Bond, would make the recommendation to the council that it was built per city standards, and at that point in time that it was ready to be taken over for public works to maintain. Of course, it would have to have the platted defined right-of-ways, and all the drainage structures would have to be built to the standards. The asphalt, the final lift asphalt cannot go onto that roadway until it meets the threshold before we take it over. So up until the point that it meets the 80% and it's ready for the city to take it over, then the final lift of asphalt, what we call the surface lift, that is the point in time which that would be taken on, which it would be a newly paved road for us to take over at that time. So that's the process. Now, the time limits on that I couldn't give you because, it's going to be based on how it's developed out. It'll have to reach the thresholds for a time frame for us to be able to take it over. So in that part, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, that part's unknown. But the only thing we could do as far as the city standpoint of requiring the construction access, we're not an enforcement division as far as public works. That would have to fall on the code and the police department as far as the utilization of the construction entrance the temporary construction entrance across the commercial property. That would have to fall under those two divisions. You know, Pecan Grove is a road we maintain in our system that is maintained and inventoried as a residential, local road.
Are there any questions?
I'd like for him to address the drainage that's
Okay.
gone on back there, cause I think that you've been involved in.
We have looked at the drainage. I had submitted to the city council a plan all the way from, trying to think what the name of that street is, Forest Park. From Forest Park all the way to Kings Creek through this tributary, I had put in a request, through the council to the Lee County Board of Supervisors and then on to the Tom Beaver Valley Water Management District to clean that drainage structure all the way from Forest Park to where it falls into King Creek tributary. We had that on the books. We had looked at that. There were some issues there that needed to be addressed all the way through that section to help with drainage. But now, as far as in the review process, it will be required that a 25 and 100-year flood event hydraulic analysis study be performed that would look at that drainage all the way across this development, and as it empties into the box culvert, which it crosses 178, which is McCullough Boulevard. You know, our city engineer, Mr. Dennis Bonds, would review all of that to make sure that it would not impede any drainage coming to the south from any area, to make sure it's got adequate flow. If not, that would be at which time we would require on-site stormwater detention. You know, if it was going to affect something downstream, I don't think that'll be, you know, the effect, because there's a box culvert under McCullough Boulevard that can handle the flow. But everything would be reviewed through the review process, such as the hydraulics, the structure of the road, the whole process would be reviewed through our permit process through the subdivision.
So what about the work that has been done thus far outside of the permitting process?
Well, as far as we've had no purview over that, as far as that. Now, it's my understanding that there is maybe an Army Corps permit and a DEQ permit in place. I think that was presented to our city engineer at such time he put the stop work order out. You know, that he did have that, because there were some correct questions about two bridge structures that was placed in that blue line stream. And that's when, you know, he was presented. But that is the information that's presented when the permit application is presented. All those, LCNOI, which is a large construction notice of intent, will DEQ, and then the nationwide 404 with the Army Corps of Engineers, with it being a blue line stream.
So both of those have already been obtained?
They have not been submitted to the city, no. But it's my understanding that he has those permits.
From MDEQ, not from the city.
So are there going to be repercussions for the fact that work has been done on this property that has not been permitted?
Yeah, that's one thing we are working through internally, and that was the reference to the existing tree survey earlier, is that we do have that we can go by as far as ensuring those trees are replaced. We are thankful that we have that document, and I do think that was a great idea about requiring those trees to be replaced along the existing parcel along Pecan Grove, and we will ensure that that does take place. As far as any additional work that's been done, I can assure you that the city currently has no permit that's been approved for any type of land development. As Mr. Knight identified, we have issued a stop work order for that work, and you know, we are working through this process. One note too that has not been brought up tonight: one of the next steps will be the developer entering, or would be the developer entering into a development agreement between the developer and the city. And some of these contingencies that we're discussing tonight, you know, there's an opportunity there to address those, specifically with the construction access, the construction traffic. That is something that can be worked out in that development agreement, and certainly should be worked out and addressed there, the long-term construction traffic.
Yeah,
So-
in reference to that would be if he's only got the easement for 2 years, and it takes longer than 2 years, and then builders can't build. And so you got a whole new dilemma there.
Exactly, that needs to be extended, and it needs to
Well,
be
that's-
something in place put, so that if they sell that other lot,
Is that, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Leslie, apologies. I guess my position on that is, the developer mentioned that renewal of the 2-year period should not be problematic. Is it within our purview, certainly it's within our purview to say, you've gotta get this easement, if you're gonna do any construction, it better run through that road and not mess up Pecan Road.
right?
But ultimately, if this developer makes a deal with someone, the costs are on him. If he don't have more than 2 years, that ain't my baby. You see what I'm saying?
I do, but I'll also note Pecan Grove is a city street, and I think the city has the right to say, hey, we have to protect our
Absolutely.
investment, and therefore, part of this
Agreed.
development agreement should and will address that construction traffic.
My
because
position isn't that he then gets to go to Pecan Grove, my position is, you bought it, it's yours. So you get 2 years, you pays your money, you takes your chances.
Well, or, I mean, he should have the easement until the road is 80% done, or whatever it takes to trigger the city taking control. That's how long he needs that construction entrance.
Those are two private parties negotiating with each other. for that.
Unless it's
But-
put into the developer's agreement with the city.
Yep.
And so if they put it in there, then we've got that covered. The same with the green space maintenance, right?
Right, that's correct. All of those things are part of the routine process that we go through with any new development, and that development agreement is key to ensuring that those, those matters are enforced,
Okay.
and that we
so
have a
that's
mechanism
where
to
that goes.
enforce them. That's correct.
That's where that goes.
And I would also note, we do have Mr. Faulkner here tonight, that I don't want to put him on the spot, but he's very familiar with this project, and would certainly like to hear from him as far as the overall staff analysis. I know we went through that at the last meeting, but there have been many valid points made tonight, and if he could offer any clarity to the committee or to the public, certainly would welcome that.
Kelly, thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
I got it.
And through the permitting process, when Public Works is looking at all of that and the drainage ditches and how close they can build to those drainage areas, that gets addressed at that, so that they're not encroaching on, floodplains and how the
That's right.
water's flowing.
That is correct. All of those matters will certainly be addressed once we enter that permitting process. But again, I go back to, we cannot enter that process until that it has been made part of the record that the development, that this developer, whoever they are in any given circumstance, that what they presented as a preliminary plan meets the design element and the lot size, the infrastructure, the utility, all of those things are met in a preliminary design. Then we get into, the logistics, the details of those actual plans and the permitting of those plans.
Mr.
This is a
May?
very preliminary.
Mr. May brought up some good points. He mentioned several things. I'm looking at page 3 of the temporary plat. That's the drawings for all of the silt fencing. Looking at page 4, that looks like that's the hydraulic survey with the 25 and 50 year and the 100-year event
It is.
calculations.
It is, and page 2 shows all of the utilities
Utility,
running along the road, not willy-nilly across lots where they're disturbing more property than is necessary.
his points were all valid. I don't know that he had an opportunity to see
Probably
this
didn't
plat.
see these.
And they're legitimate concerns, but I think they're addressed by pages 2, 3, and 4 of the preliminary.
Well, that's not, we're not engineers, and so we're not necessarily trying to determine if the engineer drawing is correct or not. We're trying to determine, is this preliminary plat, the layout, does it meet the code?
That's right.
And Mr. Newman, anything more from the city?
Now, again, I would offer, or welcome Mr. Faulkner to address any concerns that he's heard tonight that he may offer some clarity on. But I guess the task before the planning committee tonight is to offer a recommendation to the city council as to whether these 10 lots meet the requirements of the development code as far as the size and the use, the setbacks, and the infrastructure getting to them. Do they meet the requirements of the development code? And the way the development code reads, which is a legally binding document, is if a project meets these guidelines, the planning committee shall approve the project. And so this process we've gone through the last several months has been getting to a point of, okay, are we ready to review this, and has the developer met those requirements? And that's the question before the committee tonight. After the committee makes that finding, then we will get into the logistics and the permitting and review of the engineering drawings of all the infrastructure and the drainage, and those next steps.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Any discussion or questions from any committee members?
I just had, hopefully one last one. So where we wanna see the green spaces identified, do we need to just stipulate he needs to do that before final approval or before it goes before the council?
Yeah, my request
How
would be that before we take this to city council for their review, that the preliminary plat be updated just to identify green space number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6, along with the acreage of each of those. Because what I'm looking at has 4 of them are identified with the acreage of green space, 2 of them are not. And so I would like that to be clarified.
I would propose, if I may, that we identify them by their geographic features, which is to say, as opposed to putting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one by somebody's 1 is somebody else's 2, is simply say green space 1.32 acres, green space 0.33 acres, circular drive interior green space.
Yep.
Easternmost lot adjoining 4 and 5 green space, so that we actually have on the record exactly what we're talking about.
Agreed. That would work.
I like that better than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it sounds okay to everybody else, that's what I would propose. Any further questions, any discussion? All right, do we have a motion?
Back up, we'll pause one moment.
I'm sorry?
The mailbox cluster, that needs to be.
Yeah. I
As
think
well as
mailbox cluster.
identify where the service road construction
Identification of the
entrance.
service access road for construction, as well as easement duration during the period of construction. Limitation on access for construction on public street, Pecan Grove. And if required, which I believe it will be, cultural review by the Chickasaw Nation.
I'd just like to say, I understand where the neighbors are coming from. I live on a cul-de-sac. And the last thing I'd want is an addition made to what I thought was a completed subdivision. And that's, I mean, I wouldn't want that. But also, we have a code to follow. And we've been here before where we may not like it, but he's done, as far as this goes, this meets the requirements. And I have a hard time knowing what the requirements are. How do I say it doesn't meet them when I know it does? I mean, last time he did not meet because of the fire code issue with the lots. That's been corrected. And then the minor issue that we can correct with the identifying green space, mailbox, service road, that can be handled before in the next couple of weeks. But I still don't see anything that he has not met what the code requires. Regardless of how I feel about it, this plat meets the code requirements.
And if I could add to what Scott said there as well, because Dr. Hutchinson already owns that lot that he keeps referring to as 1.77 acres, that's where it gains its access to Pecan Grove.
Correct.
There's nothing, he owns that. And because he owns that, and he owns this, there you go, it makes that connection.
And that's what I brought before. He has a right to build a road, just like how every other development, I mean, Pecan Grove, I'm sure somebody that lived on Mount Vernon 30 years ago didn't want Pecan Grove to come in, but it did.
They certainly didn't.
I mean, I can almost guarantee you they did not want all those roads on their nice county road at the time. But that's where we are, and land was disturbed, and people probably got upset when it was put in. But that was the right of whoever did that years ago to do that. And he has a right, as his property, to build it. We just have to say, does it meet the code? And it does.
But it doesn't stop here, because with everything that comes
We're
next.
we're not approving it. We're just
Right.
recommending the council
Look at
approve it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that's gonna approve it. Our recommendation after hours and hours is that it does meet the
It
code.
meets the code.
This is a very, very initial step in a very large project. And to reiterate Scott's point about, Public Works, the fire marshal, myself, our job is to interpret and enforce the code across the board in a unified measure, regardless of who the developer is. Now, some of the conversation that's come up throughout this process, which has been very healthy, I believe, for the long-term development of our city, is how do we ensure that a existing lot, undeveloped lot in an existing subdivision, not having a street just built through it randomly. And that goes back to the original plat, whether or not property within that plat is platted or whether it's not platted. If this particular lot along Pecan Grove would have been included in phase 1 or 2, then the developer would have had to go on to Chancery Court and requested a plat amendment, which is a very extensive process that's outside of the city's purview. But in this case, it was not. So something that we can learn as a city, as a department, as a committee, is ensuring, moving forward when we are reviewing these plats, that each piece of property within them are properly addressed. And that's why this lot in the back of the subdivision that's unidentified is why it's important that we ensure it does get identified in this plating process, so that we're not creating another situation that we would have to deal with down the road. So I just want the neighborhood to know that you have been heard and that we have very much worked to ensure that the development meets the code, and if it does not, then it would not be approved. And we will continue that throughout the remainder of this process.
Any further discussion or remarks from any members of the committee?
I move that we recommend to the city council the approval of the preliminary plat with the conditions that all 6 green spaces are identified on the plat by name. The cluster mailbox location is identified, as well as the construction access road identified.
And that the city will address, through their agreement with the developer's responsibility, the access road, and identifying who's going to maintain those green spaces.
I think so.
Okay, yes, include that with my motion. I'm not gonna repeat it.
And the cultural review by the Chickasaw.
And the
I think that'll be done
Yeah,
anyway.
that's an automatic
That's
process.
automatic.
Just make it part of the record that
Okay.
All right.
that will be addressed.
And I guess at the conclusion, well,
I'll
we
second
have
that.
a motion.
I'll
Ms.
second.
Martin has seconded the motion. All in favor? It is unanimous. Mr. Newman, would you please advise the applicant and other interested parties what happens next?
So as I stated, after the rezoning, part of the hearing. Tonight's action by the planning committee is simply a recommendation to the city council. Next, this project will go to the city council for review of the rezoning and the major subdivision application. That will also include a public hearing, just like this hearing tonight. Currently, we're looking October 21st would be the next city council meeting where this could be brought up. But the public will receive a notice, just like you received for this meeting, and will receive a formal notification of that public hearing and solidifying the date of that public hearing. So next is just wait to receive that notice, and we will keep the developer and the neighborhood informed of next steps.
All right, thank you, Mr. Newman. All right, moving on to our next agenda item. MAJ sub 25-03 parcel 088T-27-052-00. Applicant is requesting to develop property with single-family dwellings by using the conservation subdivision standards in code 6.33. Mr. Newman, have the surrounding property owners been notified?
Mr. Chairman, this actually does not involve a rezoning, therefore public notice
No requirement.
is not required. That's correct.
Fair enough. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name, address, and present your request to the committee? Swan Circle? Whoever the owner designates to speak on their behalf, or the owner may speak.
My name's Justin Dabbs. I'm the engineer on the project. I live at 4772 Elmwood Lane in Tupelo. Our office is on 1050 Easton Boulevard, so we're pretty much in close proximity to development. And likewise, we've been working with Pat, Tanner, and entire third floor to get to the point that we are today. So we're happy to be in front of you, and I applaud you guys for your hard work. We have a 63 lot subdivision that is proposed. I think it's the conservation portion of the development code that we're looking at, because approximately 42% of the property, don't let me misspeak, Pat, you probably know exactly, but it's on the plat. I believe it's 42% is green space. There is a portion of the property in the back that we're leaving in green space. There are some environmental issues that could be mitigated, but at the same time, the communication with the city kind of led us in a direction where the utilization of this type of development seemed to fit the neighborhood, seemed to fit the area that it's in, and it's conducive to the current zoning. So the plat is shown. We also have, in listening to your previous discussion, and I don't know if it's shown on yours, we've also identified the areas where the mailbox clusters will be. It took us a little bit of issue, to get some clarification from the Postal Service. The owners have made several trips to try to meet with the postmaster.
Good luck.
And that's pretty much what they told us. Good luck. It was fine. So we've done an approach where there's 4 drive-through entrances. One of the guidelines that they did give us was, somewhere around 16 to 20 or fewer. Then so we've got, I believe, 4 different entrances where there would be a drive-through, a single lane drive-through from the right of way. And then, we've had all our discussions with DEQ and MSDH, and some preliminary discussions with the city. There'll be further review process to go through. We've done a hydraulic study that's got to be submitted to Public Works for review to determine, what impacts that may need to be addressed from a utility or stormwater aspect. But as far as we know, we believe we've submitted a really good plan to you.
Dustin, you said something
Thank you,
about,
sir. Thank you, sir. Do any members of the committee have any questions for the applicant or the applicant's engineer?
Dustin, you said something about 4 entrances?
No, 4 clusters, postal service clusters.
Oh,
There's 2 entrances.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I thought you said 4 entrances, and I was confused, cause the drawing shows 2.
If I may have said that, I meant access points for postal, it's just something that was brought up in the previous discussion, so I just want to go ahead and say, hey, based on direction from Pat, we went ahead and identified the areas where the postal, clusters would be. And there are 2 entrances, both off of Phoebster Lake Road. And there's a cul-de-sac that leads back to the back of the property. But meeting with the fire marshal, I believe that we have a good plan as far as emergency vehicle access. And I believe that we meet all the guidelines of the particular type of development that we're seeking and the zoning in which that's currently on the property.
Are there any other questions?
So the only green space I see is to the south, and a little strip of land to the west, is that correct?
There's along the edge of the properties and then along Phoebster Lake Road, there are little slivers of green space. Again, 42% of the property is green space, so it's to use Dr. Hutchinson's term, it's quite more than normal.
Is that because that part of that land is too low to build on? Why is that
There is contour issues, and again, but there's portion of it we would be able to get a nationwide permit. I mean, some of the things that were said earlier are not completely accurate about how you deal with the Corps of Engineers. So there are nationwide permits that allow certain activities to you can do maintenance, you can do crossings. I mean, the Corps acknowledges that there's going to have to be things that in waters of the U.S. are going to be impacted. And so they give you certain guidelines. If you get outside of those guidelines, then you have to get what's called an individual permit. So to stay with, we could access the back of that property through nationwide permits, but then it doesn't allow us to do the type of development that's being proposed, and so it triggers you back into, instead of the conservation development, it triggers you back in just the typical major subdivision. So to be honest with you, but the amount of work that had to be done to get back there, triggering that change, it honestly just, it kind of made itself moot. It was it kind of evened itself out as far as what the cost benefit analysis was going to return. And plus, the developer feels like, and the owner's here, Ms. Cooley, and she and her husband feel like that this type of development is probably more conducive to the area that it's being developed in, as opposed to something that may be more formal, or So there's a lot of it. It used to be a county road, and it's been annexed, and so therefore open ditches and kind of the county way of living is kind of what she is promoting within the city limits, obviously having those benefits.
What's the anticipated, I guess, are you selling the lots for individuals to then build their own? Is the plan to build the homes and sell them as completed lots and homes?
Probably a mixture of that. The owner does have a desire to build homes and sell them. Probably spec homes, at least to get the development started. They have expressed, an openness, and Tammy, you correct me if I'm wrong, an openness to if builders come in and want to buy a lot or a group of lots, that's going to be, definitely a part of the development, I would imagine, if such offer is made. But if not, the owners are prepared to, build, groups of houses 3 or 4 at a time and continue to progress through it. But my anticipation is that they're going to start the development and they're going to build 10 or 15 houses, and then you're going to have a lot of people coming, that are going to want to get to be part of the action, so to speak. So I think builders will come to them and purchase lots also.
Is there an anticipated square footage range for the houses to be built there? Approximately 1,800 plus or minus? 16 to 1,800. Thank you, ma'am.
Some 2-bedrooms, some 3.
2s and 3s?
Yes.
2 2s, 3
Our
2s?
goal is to try to target first-time home owners. Try
Okay.
to get them in something that they can afford to get into.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am, for that clarification. there any other questions from any members of the committee?
We've looked at real estate too. Those are the type homes that are needed and are turning over faster. I mean, there's a certain price point that once you get above it, they sit on the market longer. You know, so obviously there's a need in town, you know, for houses that you know, say below $300,000. So we feel like it meets a community need as well.
How are you going to block Feimster Lake Road from those houses that are backing right up to Feimster Lake? Are
What do you
just
mean?
gonna, like, their backyard, are you gonna have trees, landscaping, fences, what are you going to do?
There is a green space. There is a small buffer that's through there. There's some hatching on one of the sheets, and y'all have very small sheets, so it's hard to see. But obviously,
Oh,
you know, so there is a buffer space through there. There's, you know, and that's beyond the right of way. So the first 10 or 15 feet outside the edge of pavement is city right of way, and then you've got another 10 or 15 feet that's going to be. So we feel like there's adequate buffer. You know, people will also, you know, I would imagine would construct fences. You know, that may be part of the owner building, and it may be something that once I buy a lot, I choose to put a fence. But we felt like that would be a better scenario than a lot of homes facing Feimster Lake and having a lot of driveways.
Yeah, appreciate that
Yes,
very
ma'am.
much. We don't want that.
Any other questions for the applicant or the engineer?
Yeah, just hold on, is the gravel walking trail, like, is that all kind of connected? I just saw it. Proposed gravel walking trail?
Yeah, there's things to be worked
Have to go
through
back to
with,
the
you
little
know,
one,
there's again, we wanted to do something that kept in the guidelines where it didn't trigger some type of permit. So,
Right.
you know, as part of this, the homeowner association, you know, there would be green spaces involved in which the HOA would you know, would succumb, you know, the ownership to over time once, you know, a certain, whatever those guidelines that Pat puts in for us, you know, these things are spelled out as part of this development. So the owner's been familiar with those and has agreed to them. And then, but yes, there has been some talk about improving portion of the green space to utilize it for,
Recreation?
yeah, community participation. You know, and again, you have to go now. If you know, just frankly, I mean, if the development goes well, then, you know, we've talked about maybe putting a pavilion on that side of the road, or, you know, around the perimeter of some of the low areas, and having a walking trail that, you know, extends through it. We just can't, certain portions we can't pave, and then there's guidelines to widths of crossings and things like that. So it would all be within the nationwide environmental requirements. But again, that she's kind of wanting to get in and get started, and then as those things determine the need for themselves, so to speak. So that's been put on there. But I'd be openly that, you know, there is a possibility that's not something that we're planning to construct immediately. As far as the gravel walking trail, and there's not a requirement, I don't believe, that it be installed. We just have to meet the guideline as far as the green space.
I just thought it was a neat amenity.
Yeah, no, and but that's something that the owner has. That was their thoughts. That was something that they came to us and said, hey, you know, we want to have amenities that you know, that draw people, you know, to this area. So, you know, so that was a priority from day one to have green space, and again, kind of led us in the direction of this type of development.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we will now open the public portion of the hearing for this application. Is there anyone here who would like to make any remarks in the public portion of the hearing for this application? All right, we are going to close the public portion, and we are now open for committee discussion. Mr. Newman, does the Department of Development Services have a perspective on this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this application appears to meet all the requirements of the development code. The lot sizes meet the requirement, the required green space. The mailbox cluster dedication has been addressed. There is no concern regarding fire access. They have the two required means of access for this number of residential lots. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Any questions for Mr. Yu?
Green space. So, I get they've got plenty of green space, evident that they have. But it's all at one end, and so all we've got is just a slew of houses without much interest in access.
I think to that point, this conservation aspect of the development code is to preserve or conserve, acreage of hardwood, of trees, and that's the intent here, is to preserve that from keeping that property from ever being developed. I think, we can certainly address landscaping in a development agreement, and the committee has the jurisdiction to make any recommendations on what should be required within that development agreement as far as, streetscape. That would certainly be within the purview of the committee.
Anybody else have any heartburn over that?
I mean, it seems to me that if you take a normal subdivision and how little green space is required, and then you look at this, I'm more for leaving 40% undeveloped forever, as opposed to whatever the percentage is of green space, which is nothing like that. I think it's positive.
Yeah, and Scott, I would just add, being over an employment base that's, got an economic range, I think a rather decent subdivision like this is much needed in the town. So
It's almost like their own park with the walking trail.
If they have access to that, but they're saying that there's no plan at this point to develop actually that. So there's really no access.
But there could be at some,
Well, could be, could've, should've, would've.
been there.
Yeah, we hear lots of times when they say, yeah, that's, sometime down the road, maybe. And it just seems like we should maybe put in a requirement to, yes, go ahead and put access in right from the beginning. And to me, that's a big selling point for the properties, that they already have access to this beautifully wooded lot. But it seems like we should require that up front.
I think that's within the purview of the committee.
Sure. Does the plat not have that, is that path not part of the plat?
It does.
Does it not border those two lots, giving all residents access? Give me just 1 second, ma'am.
I think it's between it's hard to read.
Lot 6 or 4 something?
Yeah,
It's
I
not
think
very
it's
clear.
between these two lots. It's just hard to read. I
Right,
can't
so
even.
that looks like an access point there. It looks like there's a circular area. There may be a pavilion in the future. You're talking about 1,600 to 1,800 square foot
And then
homes
here
that are
too.
desperately
So
needed,
in those, both places.
desperately needed.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, I totally agree. I am all about this. I
And-
just wanna see access to that green space on the front end, not the rear end.
On the front end, meaning,
Tonight.
Yeah, when they're
on the front, I
on
thought you
the
were
front
talking
end
about
of
the lot, sorry.
construction.
No.
No,
Yeah, cause it's just a walk away for every resident.
Right.
Exactly, to give them that access to the back. It's,
I mean,
it's
to me, it looks like it shows it wrapping all the way around the neighborhood and then through the back and then down, and I mean, it goes all the way around the perimeter of the neighborhood, does it not?
She's talking about these.
What you're saying,
I didn't say that
yeah,
we may not do it, I just said it may not be done. The access is there, the access is part of the plat, and there will be sidewalks throughout the subdivision.
Can you get on the,
I just don't think.
get on the mic so
I'm
we
sorry,
can
Mr.
record it,
Katz, come on
otherwise
over here to
we'll
the
have to
mic.
repeat it.
I'm sorry.
he's gotta get it.
There's
for
gonna
the
be
record.
access to that property. It's in the plat.
Yes.
And sidewalks will connect to that future trail. It's not gonna be
part of,
Day
you know,
one.
the first 2 or 3 lot development that we're gonna go back there in the woods and build a trail when nobody lives there.
Yeah.
Is the point. I didn't communicate that very well,
I
so
mean,
my
so
apologies.
if we
But I-
approve the plat with it on there, they would have to do that, right?
Yeah, I guess my question would be, would the owner be agreeable to including an agreement in the development agreement between the city and the developer that, hey, this will be worked out, the details, the timeline, once X percent of the, homes are built out, then the developer
Yeah, I
agrees.
just think that most definitely. I mean, it's a plan of the developer. It was their idea. It just is a question of the timing, like you say. I mean, again, we don't want to go out there and the first thing that happen is we're putting rocks in the woods.
Generate some
Get
income
that.
before you
I
build.
get
So
that.
so once they're residents, then and there's, you know, but yeah, we feel like it's an amenity. And again, you know, one of the
huge,
driving
yeah.
forces of